Okay, that's 10 minutes, folks, and we're going to stick right to schedule. We're going to invite our candidates to come back to the podium here. And some of you weren't here at the beginning when we started. I just want to introduce some people to you. My name is Bill Meyer. I'm the director of OneHamtramck organization, who is co-sponsoring the event tonight. And I'd like you to meet the other gentleman who represents the other organization who's sponsoring the event tonight. This is the Yemeni American News, and this is Omar Thabet. Let's please welcome Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, my name is Omar Thabet. I'm a new writer for the Yemeni American News. We teamed up with OneHamtramck to sponsor this event. We first want to say thank you to OneHamtramck and Mr. Mayor for letting us co-sponsor the event. So if y'all want to clap it up for him too, we appreciate that. We also brought some food over from Royal Kebab, so you guys can snack on at any point during the day. And also, if you guys want, you guys can also donate to the event as well. There's a little box in the back if you want to donate here. Again, thank you so much, and thank you to the candidates as well for letting us co-sponsor this event. Let's get the show on the road now.
Thank you, Omar.
Hi, this is going to be very similar to the first half. We've got our bag of blocks with letters on them to determine the order, and then we're going to pick at random questions out of the boxes that you all wrote for either one of the candidates or all of the candidates. So I think we're going to do one round of each candidate and then one question from the all box. So I'd like to thank you all for coming here. If there's something offensive in the question, we may not read it. I don't know. I haven't read all the questions, but also, don't feel compelled to answer if you don't want to. We're not going to make anybody address anything that makes anybody feel uncomfortable. I'd like to say I'm really happy to see all the different kinds of people that we have in here. This is what OneHamtramck is all about. So here we go with the second half. Okay, our first question is to Kamal Rahman. It says, now I didn't write this, it says, with your statements comparing LGBTQ individuals to practitioners of bestiality, how can you claim that you will govern all citizens equally? You have 3 minutes.
And practitioners of what, the second part?
Practitioners of bestiality.
Oh. Okay, so it's going back to, I think, the question, whoever questioned it, referring to the 2008 ordinance. So let me make something very clear. People do think that I'm probably somehow, me or my faith probably is homophobic. That is not the case. This is how some people are trying to portray me, that you are getting the wrong message. And I'm glad that I'm talking, and I'm also trying to set up a meeting with the LGBT community and their supporters or those who want to know about it more. I'll be available to set up, I'm still trying to set up a meeting with them. Now, 2008 ordinance, that was a poorly written ordinance when Mayor Majewski had absolute control over the council. Every vote, every ordinance, every resolution was passed by slate. There was no discussion of anything. This was misleading ordinance that affected the community, the Muslim faith and Christian faith and Hindu faith and every community in a very negative way. What my role was back then to identify and highlight the issue that how it was affecting people. I wanted to explain to people that this is how it affects. During the hearing, not a single person came up and then wanted to know about this because there wasn't an opportunity. It was whatever the majority said and went. I worked on this. Now, because of my community, my background, I come from Bangladesh, and this topic of homosexuality is not very widely spoken in Bangladesh, let alone doing any study on this subject. So when this ordinance passed, there were groups that were trying to claim that this is an LGBT ordinance. This was not even the ordinance. This was snuck under the housing ordinance. That wasn't the case. The real intent came out afterward. That's when people started looking into this. And so this is when I started doing some research, and I came across some articles. And those articles, I wanted to know what orientation means. So those ordinance, the orientation term, that's what I tried to explain. I wanted to understand it. I went to council meeting. I wanted them to explain to me. They failed to explain. So bestiality term came from those articles. This was not my saying. It was a reference I used, and probably not the best reference I used, but because of, we came a long way since then. I have held meetings after meetings with different communities, LGBT community, their lawyers. I also sponsored the hate crime forum when I was president of NAACP, and we had better understanding. So that's how I try to address this issue. Yes, the terms that I use were not the best of terms, and I'm not proud of this. And I talked to the communities, and then we had built much better understanding since then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rahman. Our next question is going to be for Mohammed Hassan. It says, by your refusal to ask questions to the women candidates sitting up there with you, you are refusing to fully participate in this debate. Will you bring this same attitude to the democratic process?
I'm sorry, repeat again. From the beginning.
By your refusal to ask questions to the women candidates sitting up there with you, you are refusing to fully participate in this debate. Will you bring this same attitude to the democratic process?
The question would be, he's wrong, or he or she is wrong. I know the Camal Majewski, I know the Cathie Gordon. That's why I know what they can do, and I know what they will do. That's why I did not answer Aman's question because of the time. I had to go somewhere else. The question who or he or she did it is intentionally their mind. That's all. I have nothing with the women and men. I try to save the time. Second thing, democracy. I respect the democracy. I have the good attitude, not the bad attitude. And that's why I came here to answer all the questions.
Sorry about that. So the next question will be going to Mayor Majewski. The question is, what do you believe are the three most important aspects of your role as mayor?
The three most important aspects of my role as mayor, one of them, of course, Mrs. Gordon has already talked about, and that's the responsibilities under the charter, to run the meetings, to vote in the case of ties, to vote on ordinances, to help set, along with the council, to help set policy for the city manager. Those council or those charter requirements, of course, are the primary duties that the mayor has to fulfill. But there are other unspoken duties and responsibilities, and one of them is to be the voice and the spokesperson for the city. This is a responsibility I've taken very seriously. I'm often called upon to speak to the news media. In fact, it's just the mayor and the city manager who are allowed to speak in the voice of the city, or for the city, officially for the city. That's a responsibility I take very, very seriously. I represent the city, work hard to represent all communities in the city, to represent the city as a whole in a way that's honorable, that brings honor and proper representation to the city on a world stage, as we have increasingly seen. I just came back from a conference in Poland on immigrant integration. They invited me to speak there about Hamtramck, because Hamtramck has a worldwide reputation that frankly, I'm happy that I've had some hand in creating a worldwide reputation as a place where immigrants can come, build a new life, where they're welcome, where we don't necessarily agree on everything, but we work civilly together. So those are the main responsibilities of the city. An additional one of the mayor of the city. An additional one is to advocate for the city. And this is another thing that I've taken very seriously as mayor. spoken before the Senate, the U.S. Senate committees, spoken before the Michigan legislature, advocating for more funding for the city, advocating for for more revenue sharing. So advocacy, properly representing on a public stage the city, and fulfilling the charter requirements.
Thank you, Mayor Majewski. Next question is for Ms. Cathie Gordon. Again, these questions are not from us, and they're picked at random from the basket.
I understand.
All right, Ms. Gordon, don't you think you're just wasting your time?
I'm curious to know what that means.
Running for office.
I'm sorry?
Probably running for office is what they're.
Why would I be wasting my time? I'm here for you. I don't see it as a waste of time. I love this city. I was born and raised here. I went to St. Florian for 12 years. It's unfortunate that who's asking these questions doesn't. I would like clarification on that question because that really is kind of weird. It's kind of nonsense. I wouldn't be here if I felt I was wasting my time. I don't think anything I do in Hamtramck is a waste of time.
Okay, we've got a random order and a question for all the candidates to answer. The question is to Cathie Gordon to start out with, after that dog of a question, I guess. The city charter passed by the residents dictates that our government be composed of a weak mayor and a strong council. Explain how that form of governing works.
Nowhere in the charter do I see the word weak in reference to the mayor. So I think we do a big disservice to the position of mayor by using the term weak. I see it as the face of the city. I agree with Karen. She is the face of the city. The mayor is the face of the city. She is the spokesman for the city. Whoever becomes mayor will be the spokesperson for the city. Legislation, however, all legislation is passed through council by resolution. So the responsibility for legislation and the day-to-day operations and the quality of life rests on the council. However, according to parliamentary procedure, as the mayor, since you are in charge of meetings, according to Robert's Rules and parliamentary procedure, as a mayor and the chair of those meetings, you're not supposed to have an opinion. You are there just to run the meeting. You're not there to cut people off because they don't agree with you. You're not there to get angry and use four-letter words. You're not there to get up and try and hit one of your colleagues with a foam mallet. You're there to run an organized meeting. And I think it's been a long time since that has happened. And unfortunately, we need to get back on track.
Next to Mayor Majewski. Do you want me to repeat the question, or do you have it?
Yeah, would you repeat it, please?
Okay, the city charter passed by the residents dictates that our government be formed of a weak mayor and strong council. Explain how that form of government works.
Yeah, I think that I've already talked about this in how the system of government in Hamtramck is organized. Although a lot of people, I get this question a lot because people don't understand the city manager form of government, and it works different ways in different cities. But basically, we have separation of powers under our charter. And as I've said, the mayor has certain duties. The council has other duties that sometimes overlap with the mayor's. The council's job is to make legislation and to pass ordinances and to, along with the mayor, set policy. So I want to thank Councilman Zolak for giving me that large rubber mallet or foam mallet. I found it on in front of my seat one day before a council meeting, and I think I maybe did threaten him one day about it. You know, you might have done the same if you had been in my place.
Just say you lost it.
But
We all lose it, just like
Well,
lost
yeah,
it.
so anyway, the idea of a weak mayor is simply that it's the council, we talk about it that way because it's the council who passes the resolutions. The mayor's not allowed to even to introduce a resolution in a council meeting. But as I've said before many times, that idea of mayor, that there's much more to it than is contained in the actual wording of the charter. So there are the charter requirements, and then there are those duties that that each mayor takes on as his or her own and uses according to his or her own talents and vision for the city. So we can say that legislatively, the mayor may be a weak mayor, but in terms of policy, in terms of advocacy, in terms of representing the city, I think every mayor makes that job his or her own, and it's possible to be a very strong mayor within that context and create a strong sense of who Hamtramck is for, not just for the residents of the city, but for people out there looking at us. So I would just say that the idea of a weak mayor, legislatively it may be true, but in terms of how how any mayor actually functions, it's up to that mayor to make that job and to represent the city as we see fit and as we see best to serve you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Rahman, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, do repeat.
Okay. The city charter passed by the residents dictates that our government being made of a weak mayor and strong council. Explain how that form of governing works.
So I don't think the position, although the charter creates a situation that checks and balances are there, it's not weak at all, it's in your mind. You are representing 25 to 30,000 people in Hamtramck, you are not weak. You are representing everyone's interest, you are representing them, as Mayor said, locally and regionally, and even if you have to go to US Senate, US Congress, you are representing this community, and she just went to Poland, and opportunities will come. Anywhere you have to go. You have to lead this community. It's not a weak position at all. You have to lead this community, you have to have the broad mind to represent everyone in the city, regardless of your origin, color, race, anything. You have to work with the council. You have to work with the elected officials, and then work with them, the PR. You function as the PR of the town, and then also you have options to break ties of powerful ordinances that are there. And many times that we know that if you make a mistake, break the wrong tie, it costs city, it costs residents. So as for the council brings resolutions. They bring about the legislative side of the ordinance and makes rules and regulations for the city. And city manager also, day-to-day operations is run by city manager. Sometimes elected officials don't understand their role, and they try to portray themselves as maybe they are running the day-to-day operations of the city. It's how the charter says, and like it's been said earlier, the city manager runs the city day-to-day operations, the council will enact resolutions, and the mayor will represent the city and lead the city and lead the council.
Mr. Hassan, would you like me to repeat the question? Okay.
Okay, that was the reason why we had the Charter Commission election and why it was approved by the residents. I'm not going to talk about that. Mr. Jolak knows better than anybody else why he did it. Yeah, it is the weak mayoral system. Give the council more power because of sometime it was proven one brain using one wire and 6 brain putting together, and people thinking it was better to put the 6 brain together than one brain. Okay? So the other reason, Mayoral, some of the point here, Mayoral is the one very, very important, most of the time. So when the tie break, there's the resolution, there is the legislation, the council has the more power than the mayor. But some of the point, mayor has the more power than all of us. So it is the, like Kamal Rahman said, check and balance. It is very important. If that's the explanation is coming because of six brain together, one place, and one brain used to run the city, that's why. But this situation, it is little outside the question I'm explaining. If for me right now, I have to amend the city charter. 2 mile square city don't need the manager. Here's the city charter came to the point and take the action roles is failed. The managerial system every time failing the system. Every manager come to the meeting, look for the 3 councilmen, 4 councilmen, which way boarding. That's all they're doing. So if I get any chance, it is outside the question, if I get any chance, and I will make another charter review commission, bring back to the managerial government. I mean, mayoral government. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go back to the separate questions, specific questions to each. We're going to start off with Mr. Rahman. The question for you is, how do you imagine you may need to defend the rights and represent the views of the LGBTQ citizens in the future?
Can you repeat the question?
Same question is coming.
The question is, how do you imagine you may need to defend the rights and represent the views of the LGBTQ citizens in the future?
When we have enact any laws, we have to include everyone. We can't create a specific law to serve one community and exclude the rest. We have to understand how it affects each and every community. Because this community is very diverse. It's not 50-50, 65-35 or anything like this. We have chunk of population or ethnicity that's residing in this town. So any resolution that might discriminate against anyone, LGBT, the Muslims, non-Muslims, the artist community, the hipster community, anyone, that I will oppose. I will make sure that everyone is served well with this resolution and that no one's right is violated. So try to protect one and then break others' rights, that's what I'm going to support.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Next up is Mayor Majewski. First of all, I love the blouse, by the way. It's really nice.
Second hand.
I'm going to read the question as written, and then we'll try to interpret it. It says, Madam Mayor, would you please let me know your 12 years of time? Give me, please, 12 success story and 12 failure story. Thank you.
Okay, I've got to talk fast. So, success story. We have, maybe some of you don't remember, but we now have street signs in Hamtramck, and that was a long, long fight. We have an historical museum in Hamtramck. That museum was created because of the state, because of a relationship that we had with the state, with Governor Granholm's office, with the Cities of Promise program, and that took from 2006 until it opened in 2013 to make happen. We have a sewer repair project going on, a multi-phase, as you know how badly we need this. It's a multi-phase project. It will take decades to get done, but we had to start somewhere. People didn't start 50 years ago when they needed to, and we've started it now, and I'm thrilled. And of course, it was raining outside, so I was worried about my own basement. Street repair. August 14th, you will start to see of this year's street repair program start. So sorry it's so late in the year, but this is part of an ongoing work on our infrastructure that we so badly need. We can't begin to attract people and businesses and investment to the city unless we have sewers, unless our basements don't flood, unless our streets are drivable. Same thing with the alley project, also starting August 14th. Starting with the Joseph Campau alley, doing some of the Conant alleys, and then continuing on several years into the future. We have, I'm happy to say, I'm on number 7, so I don't know if I'm going to get these all in 3 minutes. We have a Hamtramck master plan, a great master plan that should be guiding us in our strategies and in our prioritizing of our projects. This was adopted in 2010 and was also the work of at least 2 years that involved hundreds of Hamtramck residents weighing in online and in public forums like this. The call to prayer in 2004, I think I'm on 7 or 8, I can't remember. The call to prayer in 2004, that was a dramatic fight that brought a lot of attention to the city, international attention to the city. I think the first time when the world started to pay attention to what was going on in Hamtramck. We took a lot of heat. Councilman Rahman mentioned the council that voted as a block. We voted as a block for that because we believed in it so strongly. I would count our attempt to pass the equal rights, the human rights ordinance. It failed. But I'm very proud of the work that we did to try to make that happen and the conversation we opened. Sorry, I didn't get to... Well, that was a failure in some way.
Okay, I have the microphone again, so I'm going to use this opportunity to ask that out of respect for the candidates and for everyone who's listening, please turn off the volume of your phone or any other noise-making object in your pocket, purse, or whatever. And also, please don't speak out of turn when someone else is at the microphone. The next question is for Hassan. It says, quote, "You mentioned in your lecture that you are a president of Bangladesh Association of Michigan. So far, I know that you are not. It is a lie. Tell me when."
Yeah, when the Atikul Haq Shamim has the problem, Maulana Abad Rahman is here or not, and I think my respectable Imam was there too, inside the Bangladesh Association of Michigan, the house, the room, everybody decided, and they made me the president of the Bangladesh Association of Michigan, and I host the Bangladeshi festival on Conant because I was the president. So I don't know the guy who did the question, guy or lady, and I think he's the liar, not me. And he can do the investigation. So I know the bunch of liars here. So they have to go and research. And Dr. Atikul Haq Shami, president of the Bangladesh Association, and Russell Huda is the president of the Bangladesh Association. Ask them. Please go ask them when I was the president of Bangladesh Association, and I host the festival on Conant.
The next question is for Gordon. You mentioned that representing the diverse communities of Hamtramck was, in your words, quote, easy. Can you foresee any difficulties you may have in this role? How do you plan to resolve these?
I'm going to tell you a story. 17 years ago, I moved to my business 4 blocks south. I took a lot of flack for that. The city was terrifying because the more south you went, the closer you got to the Yemeni. I didn't have any fear. I don't care if you're Yemeni, Italian, Polish, black, white, nothing. I'm afraid of very little. I can say to you, after 17 years of being on the south end, I wouldn't trade my neighbors on the south end for anyone. My neighbor moved in next door. He's Yemeni. He put in his business. I came to work one day. He replaced all his gutters, also replaced mine. Wouldn't take any money. He painted the front of his building, painted mine, wouldn't take any money. I've never had a non-Muslim do that for me as a business owner. I'm going to tell you again, I wouldn't trade my Muslim neighbors to do business anywhere else in this town. So I don't anticipate any problems.
Bear with us, please, as we get a new order for the question that goes to everybody. And maybe you can take a moment to think about it. The question is, and I don't know who's going to answer first until Bill comes back with a letter for me. The question is, if not elected personally, who would you vote for and why? To Karen.
I don't know how to answer that question. I'm here with everybody else, hearing from the candidates, making up my own mind about where they stand on issues. There are some things that I like about every candidate, and there are some things that I'm very concerned about each of the candidates. So I would be making, if I don't make it through the primary, I will be making that decision along with all of you based on partly on what I hear today, on what I read in the Arab American Times and the Yemeni Times, on what I see in the newspapers, and what I see in community interaction. Because I'll tell you that, I've said this before, that if the first time I see somebody's name on a ballot, or the first time I see somebody's name in the community is on the ballot, they do not get my vote. I need to see a proven record of service to everyone, of putting Hamtramck first. I need to see a candidate who lives here in the city, indisputably, and whose family lives with them in the city. I'm looking probably for the same kinds of things in a candidate that you're looking for. You want representation. You want the city to be advancing. You want a city that you can be proud of. And you want representatives who you know work for your interests. So I'm looking for those same things, and I have not made up my mind my first choice I know, but who my second choice might be, I have not made up my mind. But I think it's really important that it's someone who has proven themselves a representative for everyone in the city.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Hassan, would you like me to repeat the question?
No. So same thing. After primary, if I don't make, I will take the decision. Depends on who is qualified, who has experience, who truly love the Hamtramck city from the heart. That's all I'm going to do.
Third is Cathie Gordon, please.
Okay. I'm known to be a big mouth, I'm very loud, and I'm very honest. And I can say to you, if I don't win, yes, it's very true, we have to look at who's left. But I can say to you, and let me preface this by saying, I don't believe Karen's a bad person. I think she's a wonderful lady. I think she's overstayed her welcome. I don't think she can take the city in the direction we need to go. It doesn't work anymore. It's been 12 years. We need a change. We need to move in another direction. So I can say to you, whoever's ever left, I'll decide. But I'm pretty much set on the fact that Karen has given us 12 years of her life. Has she done a good job? That's up to all of us to decide. But I think it's come time that the city move in a different direction. Thank you.
Mr. Rahman.
My answer is similar. I'm not planning on losing this, so I'm reaching out to people. So hopefully I don't have to make that tough choice, because we don't have a lot of good choices here. We have a candidate that ruined the city financially. We have a candidate that does not care about democracy at all. Overnight, they trade ballots. They're talking about we're talking about candidacy and then honesty in candidacy. We have a candidate that sees people that he can buy people's vote with money. I don't respect that. I don't think we can have, he's not getting my vote. Cathie Gordon, she has my respect. She's taken care of my mother. I lost my mother 2 months ago. I highly respect her, but I hope to beat her because, as much as I like her, I would do anything to get her vote because one vote can make a big difference. But what I want to tell you is, don't make it hard for me. Make the choice, make it easy for everyone. Don't vote for somebody that you like. Vote for somebody who can take Hamtramck out of financial trouble, who has experience, who can understand and respect all communities. That's what you want to vote for. You don't want to bring in crooks and that don't represent you. If you are not elected with honesty, you are not going to serve people with honesty. If you don't see people, if you don't represent people, if you want to represent people, you have to see everybody's right. You can't just, because you have slate, and you can't pass any resolution. You have to talk to people and see how it affects people. So hopefully I don't have to make that choice. August 8 will tell me. But at this point, I'm keeping it to myself.
Now, for our next round of questioning, we're moving on to the individual questions. We've got an order, but we only had 2 questions for Cathie Gordon. Now, we'd like to give you 3 minutes to address a question that anybody might have asked you, or a question that maybe somebody wanted, maybe you would like somebody to ask you, or 3 minutes regardless.
Okay, there's one thing I don't think anyone has addressed. As of recent, in the last 6 months to a year, with the current council, and it breaks my heart, and I know it affects everyone, watching these council meetings, seeing decisions being made based on race, based on faith. I never thought, and I lived here almost all my life. I'm 70 years old. I know I don't look it, but I'm 70 years old. And I'm here to tell you, never in my wildest dreams would I ever thought that this city would come to a council of 6, 4 and 2, 4 and 2, based on color, based on faith, based on you people. It turns my stomach to hear those things come out of elected officials. It's got to stop. You don't deserve that. You're not those people. You are part of us. And people need to understand that. Council members need to get some anger management control. We don't deserve that. God knows we pay enough in taxes to deserve better than what we're getting from this council. Their functionality is woefully poor. And I don't think anyone has addressed that. Race and faith has been a big issue in this city. It's never been before. Like I say, I love my neighbors. They're Yemeni. They're a lot darker than me. I lay in the sun trying to look like them. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter to me. It shouldn't matter to anyone. When I have to go to sit in an audience at a council meeting, spending all this money on taxes to pay a council member to say, you people, you guys, you idiots. If you don't have respect for your colleagues, you have no respect for anyone. And I think that needs to be addressed. And as the mayor, I would never tolerate a council meeting with anyone discussing race, color, or faith. That has to stop.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Next question is for Mr. Rahman. I've been the guy, the lucky one with the random questions. So your question is, who will marry the atheists? Who? Yes, basically.
Yeah. So it's going back to the same issue. Okay. So there is that's not my decision, right? This is the city. However the marriage is done, I got married only once, so I can tell you only one way of getting married. I went to city clerk's office and went to imam and we got married. Atheist, I don't know. I mean, they're getting married. So it's not like a question that brand new and then no one knows the answer. I'm sure if I didn't think about the answer, but somebody will marry them. Somebody, I'm sure the process is in place for them to be married. If they like a priest to marry them, they will get married by a priest. If they want a clerk to marry them, they will get married by a clerk. So whatever is their preference. And it's not mine to decide, it's theirs to decide who will marry them.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Next question is for Mr. Hassan. The question is, why is the council divided instead of united?
What?
Why is the council divided instead of united?
Okay. So, all the decision, we cannot be united because of, again, 6th grade. My tendency, my experience, one of the resolution may be saying this is the way is the right. My other colleagues, his may be brain and the intelligence is not the same way as me. So council divide on resolution. We are not divided council. I didn't see. I don't know where you getting, how we get this question. If we divide, how we get most of the 80% of the resolution we pass with the board and 6 vote, most of the time. So if we divide means resolution divide, or divide means we divide the 3 and 3 to make the mayor come to take the decision. No, we not that kind of divide. Yeah, resolution wise we divide because there is the reason. And if it's not divide, that means we don't know nothing. Has to be different idea and different perspective. Has to be there. So council again we not divide. Resolution wise sometimes we divide.
Thank you. I have one for Mayor Majewski now. What do you imagine will be the most important conflicts in your next term as mayor?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, and I confess that I hadn't thought about it. I think that there's a tendency, and we saw it in this last question, to focus on conflicts. And I see it a lot when news agencies come to me. They come to me looking for a story about conflict. They come with a story already written about Hamtramck. And I think our message has to be that, no, we're not Disneyland. As Councilman Hassan said, there are 6 people on council with different opinions. We live in a community of individuals who have different opinions on issues. We're not always going to agree, and sometimes that disagreement is going to get loud and it's going to get boisterous. I think that that's how democracy works. So I'm not really concerned about those kinds of
Issues.
I don't think about those issues when they come up in terms of the cities in conflict. I think about the fact that here we are with people from all over the world where we feel passionately about this city. We feel passionately enough to argue with each other about issues. And in the end, we come to some sort of agreement or consensus and we move forward. So one thing that I try to do consistently is to unpack that conflict narrative and to tell the story of the way a city like ours can come together with different people, different opinions, different perspectives, and live together day to day in a functioning city. As former Councilwoman Gordon said, she gets along with her neighbors no matter where they're from. And I think I think most Hamtramckans would say the same thing. They like their neighbors, and this is the story of Hamtramck that needs to be told. And this is the story that the world, I think, will benefit from knowing. I think that this is the story of the United States, of our ideals as a nation. We come from all over, we argue with each other, we vote, and we find a way to come together and live together. That's Hamtramck and that's America.
I think this is going really well. We have 2 more group questions, and then we're going to allow the candidates to give a closing statement. For those of you who submitted a question and didn't get a chance to hear your question answered, perhaps the candidates will make themselves available afterward, either tonight or another time, but we hope that you got the curious juices flowing. So this question is for all. In what ways can you and should you work with parties related to the possible new jail to mitigate the impact to Hamtramck or turn it into a benefit for our communities? And the first to answer that will be Gordon.
Could you read it again, please?
In what ways can you and should you work with parties related to the possible new jail to mitigate the impact to Hamtramck or turn it into a benefit for our community?
When I was on council and the Wayne County Jail was open on Hamtramck Drive, being the southernmost business and the only business open at 7 a.m., I experienced a lot of people who were released at 7 a.m. So I got a lot of what you would call people who were released and waiting arraignment or waiting trial. I got a lot of the overflow from there. People would walk, asking for money, coming in the bar. Did I not feel safe? At most time. When I became a councilwoman, I built a relationship, which I have to this day, with County Executive Benny Napoleon, Sheriff Benny Napoleon. Up to that point, the county had done nothing with the city of Hamtramck. Nothing. They had no relationship with Hamtramck. We met. I had a meeting with him and our police chief, who was Mark Kalinowski at the time, and we have gone from there. As mayor, I don't know if they would welcome our comments and our input into that. But we have to work together. We have to build a relationship in order to expect them to even invite us and ask us for our opinion. I don't know if that has fallen again along the wayside. I haven't been in office in the last 4 years, so I don't know what's happened to that relationship. But I think it starts with a relationship. And I think as long as we have a good relationship, and it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you don't go to Wayne County and fight for your city, nobody cares what happens here. So that's the other side of the coin.
Rahman, you're the next to answer. Do you want
So I think they're referring to the new jail that's in downtown, their planning state, right? That's the new jail they're talking about, because it's been there since 1988, if I recall. So I was invited to a meeting with Bob Ticano, the Wayne County executive. Bob, I think whenever they were talking about putting a new jail, and his issue came up, his Turkey-Mullen issue. And that's when he invited all the city officials to meet with him to discuss and reassure that his city, county was running well and everything. From here, I think John Ule was the only one from Hamtramck. Besides me, I was invited as NAACP president. So I brought this up. One of the issues was that they're closing this up. And it's been only 20 years when they put it up. Like I was here when they this whole lot was vacant, and they demolished some homes and built it. So I asked him, why are you tearing down one brand new jail and then building a new one in the middle of downtown business district? His answer was, he called in one of the official, and he said that this building, the communication is so poor. One room to the other, the communication is not done so well. So the IT issue, the issue of communication is a big problem. That's why they want to bring it down. And I thought this was a ridiculous answer. Because Monroe Jail, it's been there for, I don't know, 60 years, 50 years or something. They can communicate, and brand new facility cannot communicate well. And John Muller brought the same issue up. And then we talked to him, we said, this is going to leave a vacant building in Hamtramck. Last thing we want is we're surrounded by vacant buildings. So we have to build better relationship with them. We have to be proactive, not finding out after they are done with the deal. We have to be proactive, vigilant about what's going on, not only in Hamtramck, but around us, no matter who is the owner. That's what we need to do. We have to make sure that our interest is served. If they're making a decision, something that affects us, we have to be proactive and transparent with our community.
Long story short, from the city elected official and city management, we've been communicating with the Wayne County official to keep jails here. The lobby is still going on and everything under control. So I think it's not going to happen soon, anything. So that's all I can tell you. But some issues addressed, and from our city official, they fix it, and the lobby and relationship is very good. Madam Mayor will address some more, and there is nothing going on right now.
This, I think, will probably become a very big issue in this coming year. We're not quite sure where it's going. There are two issues really combined. One is of course, the building of a new jail and what happens to our jail. That requires, as Mr. Rahman said, that requires that Hamtramck be at the table in those discussions, that our interests are represented. We've worked really hard over the last few years to build that relationship with Wayne County. I can't say that, that it's perfect yet, but that's something we have to continue to press. That because we stand to lose revenue if that jail is demolished, revenue from or payment in lieu of taxes from the jail. We end up with either an empty building, monolith, or an empty lot that may be hard to market, that's owned by a government entity, which is always a bad thing. We want to put land in private hands. So we're very concerned about what's going to happen with this jail in terms of Wayne County's plans. And it's going to require some, I think, aggressive interactions between Hamtramck and Wayne County. The other point about that is that this deal involves Dan Gilbert. And I'm not sure exactly, because we haven't been invited to the table around this particular discussion. But it involves Dan Gilbert's plan to build a soccer stadium for a major, the major league soccer team that he wants to bring to Hamtramck. We're very concerned about that as well, because we have a fine soccer team in Hamtramck that brings a lot of economic development. It brings a lot of people into the city. It brings a lot of good publicity to the city. So we see that potentially being undermined by this project that Gilbert and the county are proposing to create a new soccer stadium with the major league team. So there are two issues that are intertwined in this issue of the jail itself, what happens to that property, and the intertwined plan to create a soccer stadium in that other jail, or the site downtown that Gilbert wants to get from the county. So both things that the city is going to have to work very closely with the county.
respect for time, we're going to just take 2 minutes per candidate for this last group question, then we'll go to closing. This is regards to water bills. It says, nowadays we see after regular payment of water bill, suddenly a big amount comes as previous bill. How you want to resolve that?
Can you repeat that?
Yes.
I didn't hear the first part of it.
Nowadays, we see, after regular payment of water bill, suddenly a big amount comes as previous bill. How do you want to resolve that?
At this point in time, staffing is at a very low in that department. We have one gentleman doing water bills. Is he capable? Is he qualified? I don't know. That's not for me to say. All I can say is this has been an ongoing problem. I have yet to see it addressed. What can you do as a mayor? You can bring attention to it. What can you do as a council person? Bring attention to it. That falls on the auspices of the city manager. That's up to the city manager to move those kinks and get rid of those kinks and those problems. And this problem has been an ongoing problem for some time. Not to mention, second of all, we have a lot of people that are struggling to pay these water bills. 6 council members and a mayor. I have yet to ever hear anyone say anything about giving people a chance to pay these bills, to pay their taxes, and to wipe away all this interest and penalties if they play catch up. No one has even investigated a program like that. Yet we sit and keep collecting money. We have an infrastructure that needs to be repaired. We're tacking on more charges. We have a bond issue. I pay on my house, I pay on my business every month for the infrastructure to be repaired. Yet we're sitting here with fire hydrants that don't work. At one point in time, we had 8 fire hydrants in town that were inoperable. What's going on here? Yet you're sitting on a water fund that's sitting there with almost $2 million. Yet we're functioning with 8 fire hydrants that don't work. That's why it's so important that you hire a qualified, competent city manager. That's the council and the mayor's responsibility.
Hassan, next.
Billing system has the error like reading. There is the bill is coming approximate. Some of the time the meter reader cannot read the correct numbers. There is a disconnection from the meter to the system. Sometimes the residents, one of them residents, that tried to reach me like 5 times. So I didn't pay attention to. So my bill is coming approximate bill, and if they go the get correct bill, it's going to be big amount of the bill. I know that. Some of the bill is coming there. So those kinds of error, I agree with the Cathie Gordon. It's not only the councilman and the mayor have to fix it. We have the manager to do the job. So if manager direct to the department head, and department head do their job, so those kinds of error should not be there. Or even though it's there, we can fix it immediately. So yeah, that is the one is my agenda to fix it and take the action and talk to the manager, make sure we'll do it. They do it. That's why some of the managers get terminated. Some of the decision we are taking. So again and again, there is the billing error is there, meter reading error. So approximate to the original. So we will fix that one, and we have the plan to fix it.
Rahman?
Same question. So no one knows water billing and estimation and everything than me, I hope, because I've been working with this for 22 years. And this estimation issue, that why it happens is because the meter that's stuck on one read, and then these meters have a battery in it. So it sends a read every day or once a month, however it's set. So when the battery dies, it stops sending read to the city office. And then they start estimating. So if your meter is stuck on read 1, and for 6 months no one comes and reads your meter, and if you're using 2 units a month instead of 1 unit, and they're estimating, so you will have 10 times more the bill. So that needs to be fixed, and I know a third of the meters in the city, 30% or more, the battery went bad. So this needs to be replaced so that people don't get estimated bills. And I used to send bills to City of Hamtramck, the larger bill that gets sent to the community. I have experience in installing, not installing, but implementing the project for City of Detroit. We have meters that the battery lasts for 20 years. So we have to make sure that we make good financial decisions and get the meters that the battery will last longer so that people don't have to suffer this. And then replace those meters and then encourage people to send actual bill. What I also want to do is I implemented some assistance program for City of Detroit. Last 2.5 years, $6 million of this money has been dispersed to needy families. I wanted to bring this here in this city, even though I'm not on the council or any capacity in the government here. I talked to city manager and she refused to implement it because of complications. And I offered that I know how to implement it. I worked with the agencies that implements it. And if I implement it, 60-70% of the accounts get qualified. I can bring in $1.2 million of assistance program money to the city. So it also gives a relief to the community.
So we have had, as some of the candidates here have noted, had a serious problem with our meters. It's true that a lot of people for a long time, sometimes years, were getting estimated readings. If it says a little E next to your bill, that's an error to your usage, that's an estimated reading. Now that we've started to replace those meters with working meters, and people are getting true readings, their bills, not just their bills may go up, but they also may have a backlog of payment due. We cut off that payment, it may go back years and years. We've cut it off at 18 months, so anything before 18 months, the city is not trying to make up. I spoke to the acting city manager about this today, and we both agreed, although it's not up to either of us, that probably we just need to forgive that debt. Not just go back, 18 months, because for some people that's still thousands of dollars. Nobody's got thousands of dollars to pay for water that they've already used, 18 months ago. It's just an unreasonable expectation. I believe the city ought to eat that error. It wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't the city's fault. We're working to fix the meters. But now, here's the situation, and it's not fair to our residents who have been paying all this time what they thought was a fair water bill. So this is something that the city council and the city manager will have to work together on, but my opinion is that we need to forgive those bills.
We've reshuffled the deck once more for your closing statements. You'll get each 1 minute. I'd like to personally thank you all for coming and thank you all for participating. First is Cathie Gordon.
Thank you. I'm going to start out by thanking everyone for coming and taking an interest in this election, and thank you for hosting it, Mr. Hussain and Mr. Myers. I'm going to make this a little different closing than what I had planned. We've talked about a lot of things here, all four of us. We've talked from water bills to ethics to LGBT, a lot of stuff. We sit here and talk about water bills. We politic. We have to be honest as candidates. And I'm going to need you for this question. By a show of hands, I'd like to know how many of you have been here more than 12 years. Now I'd like you to close your eyes and think about when you first came here. And now look at the city. I say to you, if you can honestly in your heart say, it's better than when you got here, by all means, vote for Karen. If not, please consider me. I appreciate it and thank you.
Mr. Hassan.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming today here. The thing is, 8 years council members, I had predict a lot of times financial situation will be very bad. So 8 years I saw what I cannot do it, what we have to do it. We brought the State Department to do it. They did not do it 100%. So we have to take the leadership. Why I'm running for mayor? Because of some of the idea I have. City is running not bad, but some of the idea I have, maybe I can, if I can implement with the help of council, maybe financially we will be more strong and more strength. One, I have to tell, like, why American Excel will lose.
We're running out of time, Mr. Hassan.
All right, okay, so American Excel will lose the money. Suddenly we're going to lose the jail, $1.15 million. See, I have the plan to modify the structure inside the city hall to save some money. Okay, that's my plan. Thank you.
Mr. Rahman.
So I want to thank all of you for coming and listening to this. I think this is very important for this political process, and I want to thank OneHamtramck for arranging this. I lost a few seconds there. Over the past 12 years, the city has seen the state receivership. We went through 8 or 9 city managers, losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits. That's costing city taxpayer money, and you were asking earlier that if I pay taxes, my tax is going to lawsuits, and that bothers me. All of those due to mismanagement, lack of understanding of the process, and in some cases, cronyism. And our current mayor does not even see that there is a qualified person to serve on the housing commission from either Yemeni or Bangladeshi community, regardless of Muslim faith or nothing. There are other religious faith in this community. Remember, I am not running against them. I am running to save the city from another financial collapse. They had the option of not to run with the bad experience they have given to the residents. I'll work and respect every community for a better, cleaner, and friendly Hamtramck. I'll close it. Give me 10 seconds. I'll represent all communities equally. You have tried 20 years of combined services by the 2 candidates. Let me have a chance for a 4-year term, and I guarantee you that I will not disappoint you.
So I came to Hamtramck because I wanted to live in a place where I could hear other languages on the street, that was walkable, that felt like a community. I've spent my time in office championing those qualities. I've built relationships across the entire spectrum of Hamtramck's population, as well as with organizations and government entities across the region, state, and nation. Under my tenure, all residents know they will have a strong and reasonable voice on their side, whether it's on your front porch, across the council table, or on CNN. Long-term projects I've advocated for, park improvements, sewer, street, and alley repair, are underway. I'm committed to finding the funding and maintaining the will to see them through. Exciting new things are happening. DCFC, Hamtramck Stadium, a refugee resettlement program. We're partnering with Wayne County Detroit Habitat for Humanity. We're at the table. The city is growing, and I believe Hamtramck's best days are ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the 4 candidates for being willing to participate in this debate. It's the first time we've done a mayor debate. Thank you so much. They were all very prepared, and actually they got along better than I thought they would. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we want to thank all the volunteers who helped us put this program together. Ramsey Hussain, who helped. Omar Thabet. Michele Oberholtzer. Twyla Meyer. Lane, right here. And we want to remind you there's a sign-in sheet for OneHamtramck if you'd like to be on our list. Please drop some money in the donation box to help us cover costs. We want to thank all of you for participating, because this is the most important part, that you chose to come here. Because in a democracy, agreement is not necessary, but participation is. So thank you. See you at the football game at 7:30, and may the best 2 candidates win on August 8th, Tuesday. Thank you.